regime that affects nearly every nation trading with the United States. Under the new rules, countries that have a trade surplus with the United States, which is most of them, will continue to face a 10% universal tariff. However, nations running a trade deficit with America will now be hit with a minimum 15% tariff rate. Defending his tariff policy, the US president stated the following.
You know, we're taking in literally trillions of dollars for the country. This is making our country very rich and respected again. We have, you know, I tell these people, and I say it as much as I have to say it, but every leader is at NATO, and I was in the Middle East with the three great countries, three great leaders, Qatar, you know, Saudi Arabia, UAE, and everybody said the same thing. All of the NATO countries, essentially, they said that we were a dead country. 1 year ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country in the world. Look at you people. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're doing great.
Canada is among the hardest hit, with tariffs jumping from 25% to 35%. However, goods that fall under the US-Mexico-Canada agreement will be exempt from that hike. Senior US officials say the entire tariff package will take full effect in just 7 days. We're now joined by Dr. Ajay Dua, who's the former Secretary of Commerce and a senior economist. We're also joined by Gautam Mukherjee, who's a senior reporter. He joins us from New Delhi. And we're also joined by Dr. Sanjay Kumar, who's a journalist at the Korea Herald. He joins us live from Seoul. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on the program. I first of all want to talk about India and the effects that this 25% tariff, effective from August the 1st, which is today, and its implications. The move is in response to high tariffs on American goods and its continued purchases of Russian equipment and energy, according to the US president. Dr. Dua, what are going to be the implications that the Indian consumer is going to feel from these tariffs that start from today?
Thank you very much. I think it's more than the Indian consumer. It is the United States consumer who's going to feel the pinch or the heat of the 25% tariff, which have been announced by President Trump. The Indian government does not levy. Let me put it the other way around. That today our tariffs, which were 13.2% on the goods coming from the United States, now those have been hiked to 25%. So certainly there is going to be an impact of competitiveness of the Indian exports to the US. For each of the segments where we are a major player, let's start with, say, gems and jewelry, which account for about $10 billion out of our $85 billion of exports to the US. The duty on those is getting hiked up to 25%. The goods will become costlier for the consumer in the United States. Same thing would apply to our textile apparels, of which also we are a fairly large player. So
yes.
The duties now have to be compared with our competitors. Say for textiles, Bangladesh, Vietnam, and to some extent China are our competitors. China is probably not in a better place than us because the duty on China or the Chinese goods is still higher till it is brought down in the negotiations which are going on. For us, if it is 25% from today, for Vietnam, it is lower at 20%. For Bangladesh, it is still about 15%. So they will certainly enjoy an advantage. So the impact on the exports from India would be there, but I think these are things in the pipeline. We are optimistic that once the bilateral trade agreement gets finalized, sixth round negotiations for which are fixed in India on the 21st and the 22nd of
Yes.
August, that we might be able to enter into a deal with the United States. And at that point of time, the tariffs are bound to be much lower than the 25%, which we might have to pay starting tonight.
Yes, Dr. Jua, thank you. I wanted to move over to Gautam Mukherjee next. Another country which is an outlier here, Gautam, is Brazil. Brazil are facing a 50% tariff on imports, once again effective from today. However, this is where things are different. The US has cited political instability in Brazil and legal actions against former President Bolsonaro as reasons for this increased tariff. Brazil doesn't have a trade deficit with the United States. In fact, the US maintains a trade surplus in Brazil. What are your thoughts on the US president using trade to voice political opposition to what's going on inside Brazil right now?
Well, Brazil has reacted negatively to the business of trying to coerce it by 50% tariffs on the basis of their internal politics. So they are really not going to buckle under. They are going to try and skirt around their trade with the United States, and the situation will be left open for further negotiations as the time goes on. But, you know, they're certainly not giving in. This is not a trade matter. It is a political matter where Trump is supporting Bolsonaro and Lula, the current ruler, is saying that Bolsonaro tried to rig the elections, mount an attack on the institutions of government, and so we have punished him, and that's all there is to it. Now, this cannot, beyond a point, be forced into a resolution by the United States. It is something that the supporters of Bolsonaro and the supporters of Lula, the government and the opposition, have to sit down and work out.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Gautam. Please stay with us. Dr. Kumar, I wanted to move on to you next. Obviously, we've also had the announcement last night that Canada will, one of the US's top trading partners, the US is Canada's top trading partner, now will receive a 35% tariff on goods that do not meet the US-Mexico-Canada agreement terms. This is once again effective from today. This is an increase of 10% from the previous 25% previously imposed. What are your thoughts on the US imposing an extra 10% on not only one of the US's strongest trading partners, but also its North American neighbor?
No country is not affected, we can say, if we see the US tariffs, which ranges from 10% to 41%. And you are mentioning Canada. They also had been discussing for being settled around 25%, but this is going to send again shock waves. And many in Canada are looking at it as a retaliation. So, of course, for one country, it is a national interest, but for others, it is emerging as shocking waves, like shock waves. It is sending to many countries. And these tariffs are not just dividing US versus other countries, but it is also creating the need of some passivity among the businesses. For example, when consumers get affected, it affects the companies and in long run the economies and countries. And when these matters get politicized, then average consumers start thinking not to purchase, which in long run it affects the consumerism. That means the consumption it is going to affect too. So these kind of things are needed to be under discussion, but I don't know who are the advisors of Trump administration who are not thinking about consumption in the long run, because at the end of the day, it is going to affect the consumers. It is the consumers who are going to pay the price. And this kind of actions shape the worldview in a different a manner. For example, if you see the perceptions in New Zealand and Australia also, New Zealand had been 15% and Australia, I think it's 10%. So there is again some kind of dissatisfaction among the allies. When we see Taiwan and India also, there is like 19% and 25%. So, you know, it looks like the whole world is playing with these tariff things, and for one country it is national interest, but others are perceiving it as a huge shock waves. Some look very happy, like Japan and Korea right now. They look happy officially. Their governments portray officially that yes, they have done at least something. They have got away with that. But
Yes.
public mood is different. But the public mood is very different. So in long run, for expanding consumption and facilitating the consumers, you know, this tariff discussions must be concluded within this week or as soon as possible to restore the trust in the entire world. This is my comments on this.
Yes, Dr. Kumar.